Hello everyone, welcome back to Structural Grammar. At the very beginning of these lessons, you already learned about different part of speeches. The basic ones are noun, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Today we'll focus on a deeper understanding of adjectives. I'm sure you're all very familiar with adjectives. It usually appears before the noun to qualify a noun. For example, a new idea pops up. New is the adjective that is used to describe the noun idea. Adjectives can also be put after the verb to be and function as a complement. For example, Alex is diligent. Diligent is the adjective that follows the verb to be is and function as a complement. Here is a list of common adjective suffixes. You can identify an adjective easily by looking at their suffixes. That means the ending part of a word, such as ant, A-N-T, E-N-T, able, A-B-L-E, I-B-L-E, full, F-U-L, and also I-C, I-C-E, and others. In today's video, we are going to focus on a certain type of adjectives. That is the comparative and superlative adjectives. Comparatives and superlatives are type of adjectives that are used to compare people, places, and things. Let's first take a look at comparative adjectives. Here we have an ice cream and an apple. Let's compare them with the adjective sweet. So we'll say an ice cream is sweeter than an apple. Sweeter is the comparative adjective. A comparative is used to compare two things. So in this case, the ice cream and the apple. Now we should learn how to form a comparative. It really depends on the number of syllables in the adjective. When an adjective only has one syllable, we put the part er at the end. Young has one syllable, so we just add er to the end of it. We'll say younger. We do not say more young. It is really important to put than after the comparative. So we say cleaner than, younger than. In the second row, when a one-syllable adjective ends in an E, such as wide or strange, we add R to the end. Wide becomes wider, strange becomes stranger. In the third row, for a one-syllable adjective that has a short vowel between two consonants, we will double the consonant and add er to make it a comparative. For example, big has a short vowel I, so we need two G's at the end. Big becomes bigger with two G's. Now we move on to talk about two-syllable words. When an adjective has two syllables and it ends with the letter Y, we will delete the Y and add IER for the comparative. So happy becomes happier, early becomes earlier. In the second row, when an adjective usually has two or more syllables, we often do not add er or r to the end. Handsome has two syllables, right? Hand-some. So we do not say handsomer. We do not have it in English. So we add more beforehand. We say more is added before the adjective if it has two or more syllables. So handsome becomes more handsome. expensive has 3 syllables. Expensive. So the comparative becomes more expensive. Of course, there's always exceptions. The 2 common exceptions in English are good and bad. They're all adjectives. With good, the comparative is better. The comparative for bad is worse. We would never say no good, and we do not say gooder as well. So remember that the adjectives for good and bad are better and worse. Now let's take a look how we can use comparatives in a sentence. It is very important to use then after the comparative if you compare 2 things. So you say the test was easier than the last one, or French was more difficult than English. Now we'll move on to learn about superlative adjectives. You now see an ice cream, an apple, and some sugar. Now, let's say we want to compare the sugar with the other sweet food. We'll say sugar is the sweetest of them all. Sweetest is the superlative. A superlative compares one thing to all the other in the same group, which means comparing 3 things or even more things together. Now we need to learn how to form a superlative. It also depends on the number of syllables, more or less the same as the pattern of making a comparative, but this time we add est. When an adjective has 1 syllable, we add est at the end. Clean becomes the cleanest. Old becomes the oldest. It is very important to have the article the before the superlative. Again, since it's 1 syllable, we do not say more old. We only say the oldest. When in 1 syllable adjective, if it ends with in vowel E, such as wide or strange, we just add st to the end. Wide becomes the widest. Strange becomes the strangest. And for a 1 syllable adjective, if it has a short vowel in the middle, such as big and hot, we will double the last consonant and add est. So the superlative biggest will have 2 G's, and hot becomes hottest with 2 H's. So now you should be able to tell the differences between the comparative forms and the superlatives forms. Also, if it changes into a 2-syllable words, most patterns also applies for superlatives. And it more or less the same. When an adjective has 2 syllables and it ends in the Y letter, we'll delete the Y and add iest to the end. So happy becomes the happiest. Early becomes the earliest. Don't forget to use the before every superlative. For superlatives, if it has 2 or more syllables, we often use the word most in front of it. So handsome becomes the most handsome. We cannot say handsomest. No, we don't have that in English. And for also 3-syllable or more words, expensive has 3 syllables. Expensive. So expensive becomes the most expensive. Good and bad are also exceptions when it comes to superlatives. With good, the superlative forms is best. Bad turns into worst. We don't say most good, nor we don't say goodest. Now let's take a look at how we use superlatives. When you compare the day yesterday with all the days in January, you should use the comparative, the superlative form, the coldest. So you have yesterday was the coldest day in January. You're comparing one day to all the others in the same group. You can also say elephant is the biggest living mammal, or plane is the most expensive way to travel. Remember to put the before every superlative. Well, we are almost till the end of the video. You should now be able to tell the differences of the forms between superlatives and comparatives, and also be able to use them to compare different things. This is a summary table that will help you better understand the differences of comparatives and superlatives adjectives. Now let's move on to the exercises. In the first exercise, you'll be asked to complete the sentences by using a superlative or a comparative form. Let's take a look at the first question. The United States is very large, but Canada is, and you're asked to use the adjective large. In this case, Canada is being compared with the United States. There are only two countries being compared, so there are only two things to compare. So we should use the comparative form. The comparative form of large is larger, since it's a one-syllable adjective ending with E. So you have the answer, larger. Number 2. What is the country in the world? You should fill in the blank with the adjective small. In this case, the country is actually being compared with all of the other countries in the world. It is comparing one thing to all the other in the same group. That is why we should use the superlative form of small. Since small is a one-syllable adjective, so small becomes smallest. And don't forget to add the before the superlative form. So you have the smallest. The answer is, what is the smallest country in the world? Now you may go on to finish the rest of the exercises. So this will be the end of the video, and thank you all for watching.